Hello and welcome to the Jungle Garden in Denmark. It is now the end of September and I guess we have to realize that it's autumn. But we've had a beautiful autumn this year with degrees into the 20s Celsius. And that has been really good for the plants. So I thought that we could take a little trip around the garden and see what has been doing really well this year, and perhaps talk a little about the plans for the coming winter protection. I can't believe that we're already here again. One of the plants that's been doing very well in the garden is our Cautleya. We have 4 of them and they're all looking very good. This one is probably about 2.5 meters tall. One of the strange things we found out is that if they're planted next to each other, then one of them dies. Really strange. Perhaps it is just a coincidence, but now we have experienced it twice. This one had a neighbor that almost died. It is now in a pot somewhere else, and it now has 3 to 4 new shoots from the trunk. Then we planted a new one in the same spot, and that too nearly died. We moved it in the spring, and it looks like this now. The other Cordyline in the garden are doing good too. This one was also moved in the spring because the bamboo was taking over. And though they don't like to be moved, it has been absolutely fine. And this last one is also looking good. Our tree ferns have been doing very well this year, despite that they were so slow to get started. And I don't know why, but we've had some quite long periods with no rain at all this summer and the beginning of autumn. So I have watered these tree ferns every day or every second day, and I think that is why they still look so good. This is our biggest and best looking Trachycarpus palm. The others are also doing okay, but this is just the one that is really the biggest. Our new Tetrapanax papyrifera is also doing great and is beginning to put out some really big leaves. So now we just have to keep it alive during the winter, which was what killed our old Tetrapanax. But we did have that plant for many years, so hopefully we'll succeed with this one too. But the one plant that has done exceptional well here in the garden this summer is the bananas. And it's all because we managed to keep the pseudostems during the winter. So instead of having to start from ground level, they had a sort of a meter, I think, to start from. And that has resulted in these tall plants. I guess they're around 3 meters tall. And it does give a completely different impression in the garden. And yes, the leaves get shredded by the wind, but that's just part of it. The one plant that has done really poorly this year is this Gunnera cryptica. I already suspected that it was getting too little water. So I had sort of tried to remember to give it some water every day, which hasn't really succeeded. And it hasn't rained for that much for the last couple of months. So now I'm just happy that it's still alive. And then I'll have to remember my watering procedures next year and water it every day. And hopefully the big leaves will come back. This is the corner that we renovated earlier in the summer. We dug up a shrub that had taken over the whole thing, and we moved the fig tree to this place, and it got really, really offended, as you can see. All the leaves went, but there are some leaves left, or not left, there are some new leaves at the end of the branches, if I can get it to zoom in, yes. So I guess there's still hope for its survival, but it does look really miserable. And if it doesn't survive, we'll just have to put something else there. This is another plant that has done really poorly this year, Canna musafolia. Normally this time of year they're a couple of meters high, and this one is not even 1 meter high. I don't know why they've been so poorly. They got really a slow start, and then it just never picked up. We have to see what happens next year. This time of year there's still lots of plants in flower. Here is a Eucomis that unfortunately has flopped over, but which is a shame, so you can't really see the flower. But it is still pretty. And this is Eucomis bicolor. Cautleya is still flowering, even though it's nearly at the end. And then there is Nerine bodenii. I always forget that we've got it because you don't see it at all. It's hidden beneath hosta leaves and other ground covers, and all of a sudden here in September it pops up looking pretty. And here we have Crocosmia and Canna still in flower. Our Alstromeria Indian summer are so beautiful, as always. The two in the middle have been moved recently, and I think it is pretty impressive that they're still flowering, even though all the foliage has died. But that gives me hope that they'll come back to next year. This is Persicaria, painter's palette. And I must admit I'm growing quite fond of it, because compared to Persicaria Purple Fantasy that I've used as a ground cover around in the garden, this is so much more well behaved. It has just become sort of a little shrub, and it does spread, but very slowly. Whereas Purple Fantasy just takes over everything, and you have to pull it out all the time, which is easy enough, but it's just annoying that you have to do it. This is the original Zantedeschia white giant, and I was so lucky that it had so many seeds I could sow, so all of a sudden I had lots of them. Normally I winter protect this one. I cut it down, I protect it with straw, and then I get a wooden box on top so that it doesn't get so much rain. But this year I'm going to try something, because all of a sudden I had lots of these plants, and I've planted 2 here next to the stream. There's one there, and there's another one in behind that Persicaria. I think it just might be able to see it. And because I've got so many of them, I have decided that these 2 are not going to be winter protected, and then we're going to see what happens. With my miserable legs, I just can't get in there, so they'll just have to take the chances. About winter protection, there'll be plenty about that later on, so I'll only quickly mention that we've got sort of 3 phases. Phase 1 is that all the plants in pots we've got in the courtyard, they have to come into our plant room. And also all the plants out here that need to be dug up. There's a lot in most of the plants in the Australian bed. They have to get in as well. And then phase 2 is like the gingers here. They get cut down and protected with straw, and then they get a wooden box on top to protect them from the worst rain. Then there's phase 3, like the bananas here. We cut off the leaves, and then we cut the stem from where the leaves begin, and then they get one of our polystyrene protection boxes. And other plants are protected in the same way, like the phormiums down there. Same procedure. The tree ferns have got their own procedure, because that is also different phases depending on the temperatures. We start with putting in some straw or fleece in the middle of the crown to protect the new crocuses, and when it gets colder, we protect the area between the trunk and the leaves of the fronds with fleece. And if it gets really, really cold, we also protect these trunks with a polystyrene box. But there'll be plenty of explanations and videos about that later on. The grasses around the pond has grown to be really good looking now. And if there had been any sun right now, then you could have seen how pretty it looks with the sun through all the flowers on that big miscanthus. But this was all for now. Thanks for watching.